Hey everyone, thank you for listening to Communicate 101 Speaking Writing Tips, your podcast channel for effective communication skills. And I'm your host, Sarika Singh. On this podcast, I talk to you about becoming an effective communicator in life, be it branding, communications, how to pitch to clients, creative writing skills, how to speak, when to speak, tips to avoid and handle those goof-ups, how to break the ice and start conversations, and everything around this topic that walks through my mind. This episode begins.
Vicky from Bengaluru, India wrote me an email saying, I'm pretty comfortable when I have the time to prepare what I want to speak. But if you ask me to speak at a moment's notice, I get miserable. And he wrote miserable in caps. I really struggle. Can you give me a hack for that? Along the same lines, Elisa from Queenscliff, Sydney asked me on my Insta handle communication_coaching. Sarika, I understand you teach how to give a talk or a presentation or whatever. That's not really my interest. But in real life situations, we don't get any time to prepare. I'm a student. How do you suggest handling that? Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Elisa. Because you just gave me feed for my next episode. And that next episode is today. Because your point is noted, it is a very, very valid point, and your question is getting answered right here, right now. Do you sometimes in the middle of a conversation struggle to find the right words? Or maybe you walk away from a conversation thinking, what did I just say? Oh God, I knew the answer, but I didn't have the right words. This can be so royally frustrating, and it happens to most of us. So Vicky and Alisa, very often when I'm asked to speak on the spot, I may freeze. It's like maybe my voice has suddenly been given an electrical shock. I may even start rambling. I can speak about this, I can speak about that, I keep waffling, but I'm far from being focused on the matter at hand. Why? Because I'm asked to speak on the spot. And I agree, it's a hard thing to practice for because you don't know what the topic is, you don't know who's going to be listening. And life, like Alisa said, does not give you chances to prepare always. In class, your teacher may just ask you to speak on a topic, that was taught. Suddenly, out of the blue. Your boss at work, he may ask you to contribute to a business discussion about a recent project. You got unaware. Even worse, suppose you're talking at an event, suddenly someone may just pose a difficult question out of nowhere. Politicians know this very well because reporters and voters keep asking them random things almost anywhere at any time. Life does not give you time to prepare. I agree. But at the same time, the more you practice, the better you'll be. But how to practice, what is it that you can do, is what we're going to talk about here. So Vicky and Alisa and all of you tuned in here, I will share with you one simple mantra on how to communicate effectively when asked to speak on the spot. This podcast is all about that and much more. Keep listening. Alright, gather around folks, let me share a personal story from my high school days. So back in grade 11, and if any of my classmates from grade 11 are tuned in here, they'll know what I'm talking about. So I was this house captain. We had houses in the school and I was one of the house captains in senior school. And one fine day, I found myself participating in a sudden debate competition. Why sudden? Because the person who was supposed to take part was suddenly absconding right before the debate. Happens, right? And I was the house captain, so there was no choice for me. I had to fill in. Now, interestingly, the topic that day was dictatorship. I had no clue about what I was going to say. What points was I going to cover? How to start? How to catch everyone's attention? Yeah, talk about diving straight into the deep end. And when my turn to speak rolled in, I noticed the auditorium. Whoa, it was a madhouse. It was buzzing with noises. Typical school auditoriums. I hadn't noticed this earlier because I was so thinking deep about, petrified about what I was going to speak. But when I saw the auditorium, I noticed everyone wants to speak there and no one wants to listen. If I were to speak, it was like trying to speak without a mic in a fish market. In my school audi, no one was in a mood to listen, but everyone seemed to be doing something apparently more important. I was sure my debate was on the verge of being drowned entirely. Oh no! I was the only chance my schoolhouse had. How can I let that happen? So, Sarika, stay calm. Think. What next? Sometimes it so happens that in tough situations, challenging situations, you suddenly get that burst of energy, sudden confidence out of the blue. I'm not denying it can be a complete opposite case, but as luck would have it, that was my lucky day. And my pride of being the house captain told me, take matters into your hands. Don't give it up. Don't fret. I'm talking about this because this was a happy time, this was a happy moment, and I have something boastful to say. Most people actually talk about things where they've failed, and here I am going against the tide, telling you something great that I did and boasting about it. Well, so hear me out. I strutted up to the stage, I grabbed my mic, and in a tone that brooked no argument, I commanded everyone to be silent. I laid down the law. If you don't shut it, you'll find yourselves cooling your heels outside the principal's office for a solid 1 hour after school. And you know what? Like magic, the auditorium fell into pin drop silence. No one realized I was a participant. They all thought, she's the house captain. So they listened to me. It was like flipping a switch. Then, with all eyes on me, I announced, see, this is the power of dictatorship. I showed them firsthand what dictatorship really meant, and let me tell you, it left the impression that I wanted to leave. Everyone noticed me. Everyone thought what I said made sense. And they were already on my side, and this was my star moment. I loved it. I still remember it with treasure. I don't know if this is something they'll always remember. So, something they'll always remember, the star moment. But for sure, this was something I'll always remember. Now, if you've ever sit through any of my training programs, chances are you've heard this story. And let me assure you, it's not a tall tale, it's the real deal. But here's the thing. This story isn't just about a high school debate gone rogue. It's a proof that the power of communication skills, good, effective, strong communication skills, can work wonders. Whether you're speaking on the spot, whether you're explaining a complex topic, whether you're simply trying to get your point across, being able to communicate effectively is an absolute essential. It's not a choice. So speaking on the spot is what we're going to master here with a small, simple, magical trick. So the art of speaking on the spot is not just about talking. It's about commanding attention, seizing the moment, leaving your audience, whoever it may be, in absolute awe. I have talked about it at length in one of the episodes of this Communication Skills podcast, and that is titled Master Speaking Spontaneously. If you have not had a chance to hear that, you can scroll back, look at the previous episode and see Master Speaking Spontaneously. However, there's always room to learn more, so today I'll share a magical trick that you need to keep in mind when you're unprepared, when you need to speak on the spot, because this will help you, Alisa, Vicky, and everyone here to organize your thoughts, to give them a structure and ensure you stay focused in whatever you say, wherever you say it. So I call this magic trick the 5 buddies. And these 5 buddies are who, what, where, when, and why. These 5 buddies come in handy when you're speaking about a person, topic, event, anything. You make friends with these 5 buddies and they'll give an instant structure to whatever you're saying. And you'll be able to organize your thoughts in an easy to relate manner. But I insist that you keep the order, the sequence of who, what, where, when, and why the same. Because when you start with who, you give context to the speech. Who is it about? And when you end with why, it leaves the listener, the audience with the most important point, most relatable point. And that's the battle you want to win, right? I'll show you how to make friends with these 5 buddies with 2 examples. One, a professional example, and one, an everyday example. So picture this. You have to talk about a fundraising event for a charity. You could say who started the charity, what are the goals, agendas, where it's headed, where's the event happening, when is the event happening, why is it so important. Did I rush it up? Okay, let me keep it slower, simpler. So, when you talk about who, you say who's involved in the event or who's attending the event. That's your who for the fundraising event. When you talk about what, you could say what event are you at or what are its goals. Whatever goals could be relevant for your audience. When you talk about where, you say where the event is being held, what is the genesis of this whole initiative around which this event revolves. When you talk about when, you talk about the timing of the event and why is that timing important. You may also talk about what the future holds. And finally, when you talk about why, you can ask, why is everyone here? You can ask the audience, why are you here? I agree with Elisa that it is a reality that most of our daily conversations happen on the spot. So it's not enough if I give a professional example like the fundraising example. We don't get a chance to prepare or write down our thoughts and talking points. We don't get to create a script. We don't get a chance to memorize it. And still, we need to know how to handle situations, conversations effectively without having a chance to prepare in advance and without walking away feeling, oh, I didn't express myself fully. So, let's forget about the fundraising event. Let's talk about an everyday situation. Alisa, especially for you, I have put down the situation as 2 acquaintances, they've just met at a destination wedding party, Dave and Safi. Dave takes the initiative to talk. Safi is still the quieter one. So here's what Dave says using the who, what, where, when and why. So Safi, are you a friend with the bride side or the groom side? Or maybe, tell me about yourself. That's the who. Whose friend are you? Tell me about you. Who? The what can be rather simple. What are your thoughts on having such a lavish destination wedding? What's your take on this? This what can trigger a beautiful debate. We don't stop at what, we go on where. What about where? They're already at a destination. Maybe Dave can ask Safi where he is headed after the event. Or is he joining the next day's event? Maybe you could go together. That's your where. When can be, maybe Dave can ask Safi till when Safi plans to be there that day. And the most important one is, why is Safi here? Is it an obligation? Is it a choice? That can really trigger a very, very interesting conversation. So you see, Vicky and Alisa, the 5 buddies help you with speaking on the spot without losing structure. They in fact help you structure your conversation, stay focused and not miss anything you wanted to say. At the same time, they ensure you don't get caught completely off guard. So make friends with the 5 buddies and get better at speaking on the spot or just about anything, anywhere, anytime. If you loved this tip and would like more, don't forget to follow me on my Insta handle communication_coaching. If there are communication areas or situations that you need help with, just shoot an email to info@sarikasingh.in. Remember, I'm just a message away.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Communicate 101 Speaking Writing Tips with Sarika Singh. If you want to be notified of upcoming episodes, be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow the podcast. I'll be back to share more stories, more life experiences, and more communication tips every Friday. If you want to reach me or connect with me, just put your comments in the comment box below or mail me at info@sarikasingh.in. I know you're going to rate and review this podcast, so a big thank you in advance. Stay tuned and think about what we talked today.